QPR, QPR, this one Rangers are on the up and up. QPR, QPR, now we're heading for European Cup.
Hello and welcome to Open All Hours, the QPR podcast. I'm David Fraser and I'm here with three other QPR fans tonight as we record on the evening of transfer deadline day. So by the time you listen to this, you will know who QPR have and haven't signed. We'll get onto that in a minute. Have QPR podcast regular with me from ITV Sport, Chris Mendes.
Good evening.
We also have from the Telegraph sports editor. Is that correct?
Online sports editor.
editor.
Not rub anyone up the wrong way there.
We won't rub anyone up the wrong way. Who would we be rubbing up the wrong way?
My boss.
And their name is?
Well, I might call him Silsey, but that's a bit casual for broadcast. Adam Sills, wonderful man.
Adam Sills. We don't want to rub him up the wrong way. Thom Gibbs, welcome. QPR fan, of course. And QPR fan, are you the axe wielder in your band? Is that what that is called in your game?
No, probably a bass player.
The bass player.
Is a little bit more boring.
Of Orange Goblin, Martyn Millard.
Good evening. All right.
Did I pronounce the surname right?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So quite a lot to talk about. Inevitably, transfer deadline and Burton. Before I get onto that, just to remind everyone, you can follow us on Twitter at QPR Pod. You can listen to all our old episodes at qprpod.co.uk. And thank you very much to Ian Fraser, no relation, for the beers tonight, who's gone on our website and has bought us the beers. And if anybody else would like to be so kind, please do. Thank you very much. We appreciate all the support we get for the podcast. You go on to our website at qprpod.co.uk, click on the Support Us button, and then there's all the options about how you can do that. Okay, Burton.
I sort of maybe once or twice a year have a moment during a QPR home match where I have this feeling that I'm wasting my life. And Burton was one of those. There was a weird atmosphere around the ground. It felt like we turned up expecting to win, which obviously isn't something you feel that often as a QPR fan. It felt flat from the beginning, and the players seemed to be demonstrating that as well. You can't really legislate for how bad Luongo is when he has a mare. He seems to be really terrible. We had some nice spells. I thought we put a few sort of quite pleasant little moves together, but we just couldn't get that solid base going. And I think we went into that game expecting Burton to sit back, but they actually broke on us really effectively, and we missed someone kind of in front of the back four. It was sort of a back four at some point. The formation was quite hard to work out, but it feels like when we play with that back four, if it's Hall that's playing forward or if it's a three with sort of one of the defenders stepping out, you should be able to dominate that space in between midfield and defence, and we're just not doing that whatsoever. Both of the goals were kind of due to lapses in that area. I thought.
Did you think the first goal? Do you think the first goal was a lapse in that area?
Yeah,
or the first goal was Smithies just not having a Smithies.
I wouldn't put the blame on the first one for Smithies. I was screaming at Doughty for that one because he was ambling about, and so was Longo, and either of them could have been closing the fella down. It was a great shot. I wouldn't put too much blame at Smithies' door for that. But Doughty was running back from a corner. He'd taken the corner, and it felt like he hadn't quite read it and might have been a bit out of breath. And I thought he was all right, and I'm not going to slate a youngster that we've produced. But I thought one of them should have been closer on that guy. He had all the time in the world for that shot.
Now, atmosphere. It was a bit weird, don't you think? Bit odd. It was. I mean, Burton didn't bring many, and it was very difficult to know what to say about this game, but I thought about it, and then I thought I'd do the math, as they say, and calculate how many Burton fans there actually were. Not calculate how many there were, because apparently there was 252,
wow.
Which is so small, it doesn't even fill half a train from London to Burton. By the way, I have actually done that math.
I didn't see the crowd. What was the crowd this Saturday?
The crowd was 12,116, just from memory, just completely off the top of my head and not from my notes.
Did it not seem that then?
Washington did well on the upside.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He did. He scored, but that was about it. I mean, he didn't do very much, but then a lot of them didn't do very much. It was the theme of the game for me was block. We had the ball the whole time, And I think we dominated the possession, was something like 65, 70%, maybe even more, something like that. And Burton just blocked and blocked and blocked. And I did look at the stats, and I think they made something like 9 blocks or 10 blocks or something like that.
Seemed a weird team selection as well. I mean, Harry Redknapp used to go on about bonus games. If there's ever been one of those, it's the Newcastle away game.
I'm sure you saw that. I'm sure you saw that tweet that was doing the rounds where only at QPR we can ask for games we brought forward and then rest
players.
Our two most informed players because we've got 3 games in a week. It just seemed a bit weird, didn't it?
I take the point that it was a different sort of game, and maybe Mackie running around wasn't necessarily the answer to unlocking a team like Burton. But he can get a crowd up just by the way he runs at a goalkeeper when he's closing them down, and you just miss that impetus. And Manning obviously is just flying at the moment, so to take them out ahead of a game where we're probably going to get pasted just seemed like a really odd move.
I know you thought this. I know you thought something similar to this too, Tom, because you mentioned it before we came on. I wondered if us moving the game was a bit like Spurs' suicide attempt in the Champions League where they moved all their games to Wembley. So Spurs totally cocked up their Champions League campaign by moving to Wembley because they were overawed by the occasion, failed, couldn't get the right atmosphere together, etc., etc. I also saw they're trying to sell tickets for their Europa game against a team you've honestly never heard of for £10 a ticket, but that's an aside. And I wondered if we did the same by moving this game, because Loftus Road on a Tuesday, Wednesday night is often rocking, is full. People are up for it, under the lights.
There is something special about under the lights.
There's something special about it, exactly. And they moved it with not a great deal of notice to a Saturday afternoon.
So what you're saying is no more Saturday 3
not
p.m.
saying
games.
that.
We can't handle the Saturday 3 o'clock games.
We were moaning about the lack of Saturday afternoons recently.
We were. But I don't know. Maybe, we didn't have a very big crowd. Perhaps people make plans when they know QPR are not at home.
I don't accept that. I don't think people have anything outside their lives that isn't blue and white hooped.
Maybe people are just so disappointed we've won a few games that we're not going to go down now. There's just no excitement.
So, listen, I don't think you guys have been on, I'm pointing at Thom and Martyn, I don't think you've been on yet this season, and we talk about it sort of endlessly week on week. What is your take on the Holloway era so far?
It obviously started badly. Well, it started well, but then kind of tailed off. But I don't think it's been helped because I think it coincided with Corker's injury, kind of roughly. And I think Corker's actually doing all right. I think as a Premier League defender, he's not. I don't think he's up to it. I think that's pretty been proven. But as a Championship defender, I think he's pretty steady. That's personally, and I think him missing hasn't helped. It didn't help Hasselbank either. But it's all about patience, really, from us to an extent, and that's
us being the fans.
The P word is not saying that we do very well as fans. But I think we have to let him instill what he wants into these bunch of players, and I think it's working. I think even the Fulham game, we drew the game, and I think everyone came out of there going, well, okay, that's actually all right.
We drew it hard.
And, I mean, they had something ridiculous in possession, which I didn't. Which I didn't feel that, and I don't think a lot of other people. I think everyone was surprised to see they had something like 75%. I mean, that shocked me, even though I knew they had more of the ball. But my point being that I think I come out of there going, well, actually, that was a good game, and I don't think we felt that for a while. Where there's been some good games. I mean, it's not. I mean. To a lot of people, it is all about winning, but not always. Sometimes it's just about seeing a good match and us playing well and us playing with a bit of passion and a bit of heart and a bit of pride, which has been lacking since we got promoted 4 or 5 years ago.
It's taken a little while for him to get his message across, and it doesn't matter who Ian Holloway replaces as manager. He's always going to be completely different to anyone else. Yeah. So it's going to take a while for players to adjust to his message.
It's still going to. I mean, we have to give him some time again. We always say, like Hasselbank, we've got to give him some time, and then everyone and whoever before him. But I think it's good. I mean,
so Martyn, I know you don't talk about it very much, but you were a youth team player at QPR, as many people know, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is because you were a youth team player in what many people see as the kind of last golden period of QPR around that time, early 90s, fifth in the fifth in the Premier League, top London club. Jerry Francis, good young players getting in. Ian Holloway getting in play exactly. Players from lower league improving them. Ian Holloway. Players from non-league improving them. Les Ferdinand. Couple of old guys knocking around to help the rest of them. Ray Wilkins, so on and so forth, pulling you through. Kevin Gallen. So you saw that then. And in a way, I'll ask you the same question that we ask when we have these players on. Do you see the sign that it's pretty well subscribed to, this view that what Les Ferdinand's trying to do is trying to get the club back to the type of feeling that was around then? Do you see those blocks being put in place?
I do, but the problem, I mean, it's a little bit simplistic to say, let's get that era back to, like a lot of fans want that back. It ain't going to happen because the game has changed. In them 20 years or so, that game has changed massively. Like the players' attitudes, the money, just, QPR was seen as then a bigger fish now than they are then than what they are now. Sorry. So for players to come in, like Darren Peacock, Andy Tilson, all them players coming in from really like Bristol Rovers and teams lower, and that's what. It was a big thing. Now it is in a way, but it isn't in a way. Now it's when we're not as big as we were. What the players do now, though, is demand a lot more money now than they did then. So then players weren't on great wages when they come to Rangers, better than they were. But it wasn't about the wages. Whereas now, I think more so, trying to get players here who don't want to play for the money, want to play for the club, is a bit more difficult than it was. But the blocks are in place, I'd say. What he's trying to get that back. I just think he'll find it a lot harder.
Thom, Holloway era.
Well, I'll always love Ian Holloway. I mean that honestly. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say he gave us our club back in 2001. It was a time where I'd completely gone off the idea of going to QPR. It was absolutely miserable, and it became brilliant again under him, and it was a fantastic period, a really crucial time of my life, which means I'll be a supporter forever.
Do you think you'll be saying the same thing in 5 years' time about the era of 2016 onwards?
I did not love the reappointment of Ian Holloway because I've got a bit of an aversion to nostalgia in any form, and I feel like it's not what it used to be. It certainly isn't there. I felt like it was an appointment made to placate the fans and not one that any normal club would have made, regardless of his connection to the club. I'm desperate for him to succeed, but I really hope, unless there's something really terrible happens to our form, that we just stick with him, because the turmoil, to lose in this transfer window alone, Sheree, Poulter, Shadipo, I realise only on loan, and Borisiuk, who, homesick, you can't legislate for that. To lose those four players who all, during this season, not necessarily consistently, but have all had spells of looking quite good and quite crucial, it's not sustainable. It's not a way that a sane football club or a stable football club behaves. And this cycle of getting rid of a manager every 18 months, almost like clockwork, just means...
Do me a favour, it's not as far apart as that. It's every year. It's every January, isn't it?
Remarkably,
November, December.
Yeah, I mean, Hasselbank got a remarkably good run, considering quite how boring it was. But I mean, I was quite the defender of Hasselbank, despite... the football, which was incredibly tedious, but it did feel like things were moving in a sensible direction, at least under him. And
do you think that Hasselbank going affected Poulter? Because I think under Hasselbank, no matter how bad the football was, Poulter seemed to, especially at the start of the season, whether he was getting coaching from Hasselbank, he just seemed to improve his game. Not his goal scoring, unfortunately, but his actual game. And I think I've got a feeling that might have took the wind out of Poulter's sails, hence him going. Maybe Cherry too, seeing as he was Dutch. I don't know, but
possibly. But I think when they had that offer on the table, they probably saw that as an opportunity to make a profit on him. He wasn't scoring a lot of goals, and it was quite good business. Really,
I think you said, someone said in the pod, he was a fan's favourite.
Yeah, he was.
But he didn't score. But he was. I loved him. But
he worked hard.
He didn't score, and that's his job. But.
But when we did sell him, I just assumed we would have a similar kind of player coming in, which we haven't.
I guess
Matt Smith.
I guess we have.
Yeah,
he's your guy.
Yes, is he?
I think he will be. I think he looks like a natural replacement for him. He's 6'6". I think every time we sign a striker, I think there's a certain section of the fans who think he's going to be the saviour and shoot us to glory. But you have to actually look back. Certainly at the time since I've supported the club, how many strikers have we had like that? I think it's 3. I think it's Furlong, Ferdinand, and Austin, who've actually been, the archetypal 20-goal-a-season man. So it's definitely not going to be Matt Smith as much as I like him. I think he's got, I'm looking at my notes, he's got 9 goals in 53 games for Fulham, so he's unlikely to suddenly become Charlie Austin. But he's, Silla at the weekend was just a head on a stick, wasn't he? And I think he'll give us a bit more movement and probably application than we're getting from Silla at the moment. And he seems like a lovely fella as well.
Do you feel like we'll come on to transfers next? But it almost feels like we are now in pre-season, and this is not the first time we've said it on this podcast, is it?
It's right. We can't just get rid of the managers every 18 months unless we're going to get relegated from this division. These players Holloway is signing now. If in 12 months' time we're in the same kind of position we are now, mid-table, they decide they want to change. If they bring someone in who's like, I don't fancy them, we just start again. It's just...
it's becoming a little bit... it's just this endless cycle that we're in at the moment.
But you bring a manager in and you have to let them... You have to let them get their own people in, get their own players in, can't you?
Or you let a manager manage and take what he's got and do something with that. And there are enough players at QPR, and Holloway had already done, I think, some interesting things with what he had, with how he reshuffled it. I mean, Furlong, for example, bringing him back on loan, off loan, he looks absolutely no worse than Perch or Anua, certainly in that right-back position. And... there's the resources are there.
He looks no worse than 2 other players.
Right, but 2 other players who were assumed to be ahead of him in the pecking order so far that he was allowed to go on loan for ages. So, I don't know. I feel like there's not enough... the turnover feels far too quick to me. And just because the manager says I need 5 players and I want 5 out doesn't necessarily mean that's how you run your club.
Well, let's move on to signings then. As someone pointed out today on Twitter, we've signed Matt, Luke and Goss.
That's tremendous work, isn't it?
Fantastic. I think that was Malcolm QPR. So actual new players we've got in. Matt Smith, as we've talked about, which apparently is for 500,000, but nobody knows it's an undisclosed fee. Didn't stop Ian Holloway saying... He's tremendous value. That is an undisclosed fee. Luke Freeman. It looks like Ravel Morrison, but we don't really know at this point. At 25-8 on Tuesday night, we understand Sky QPR pod sources tell us he's on his way. He's on his way to London. To sign for us on loan, but may or may not happen. So by the time people listen to this tomorrow morning, they will know. Did I mention Luke Freeman?
You did.
I did mention Luke Freeman. Luar, of course. Have I missed anyone
Sean
out?
Goss, the Man United
player? Sean Goss, sorry, yes. Sean Goss as well, the Man United player. And depending on how you look at it, between 2 and 3 players who were registered with QPR but weren't in the reckoning. So, the emergence of Ryan Manning, Darnell Furlong coming in, Jamie Mackey coming back could actually mean that you could see a QPR 11 with 7 players who weren't getting a look in a month ago in it.
Looking forward to seeing Sean Goss. Like the sound of him. He's he's highly rated at Man United in the reserve ranks. Ball playing midfielder.
The only thing I've seen of him, I must admit, is those YouTube highlights compilations where they put sort of best moments and
but they're dangerous. They are, because I remember watching was it Delamore, a guy with Redknapp's. Well, someone signed on the Redknapp. Watching, he looks good on YouTube. Well, he never played a second.
Yeah, Sean, the Brazilian striker.
Yeah, someone come from come from Portugal, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had one of them packages on YouTube. It was like, he looks good.
Well, Sean Goss's includes a throw-in.
What, his YouTube package?
Yeah, his best moments.
Was it a good one?
Well, it's better than most of the throw-ins we're managing. He did manage to find one of his teammates with it, but we need that sort of athletic player in the middle, don't we? We've been crying out for someone who's going to dominate that area of the pitch.
We're missing Robinson's throw-in, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the thing we need that stuck out to me on Saturday is goals. We dominated possession. We are creating things to a point on the pitch, but then we're not kind of doing those last 2-3 moves to put them away.
Hoping, I guess, if touchwood, if to a point, if Morrison signs, he can be the spark that can kind of create chances. Because at the moment, people like Washington, I mean, they're not even getting chances. We're not creating very much in the final third. So hopefully he can create
What do you think
things.
about Morrison?
I can't decide.
No, I can't decide either. I mean, he's obviously, as I said, I think I said earlier, there's always a but with Morrison because he's a great player. But
We're told.
I don't question his
We're
talent,
told.
just his
I mean, he played. I think he. If you look at his career, checkered career would be the tabloid sticker on it. He did well for us, but it was only a handful of games. It wasn't long enough to see him self-destruct or whatever he's supposed to do every time he's onto a good thing.
I've got my doubts about Holloway's man management in 2017 and how that compares to how it worked first time around. But there is a chance he might be the sort of player who responds to a bit of weird Bristolian love from Ian Holloway and an arm around the shoulder and some odd metaphors. It does seem like we've kind of forgotten about that thing we were going on about a while ago about signing the right sort, though, doesn't it?
That's the but. I think that's kind of. I don't know.
I mean, he is a punt, isn't he?
It is a
Morrison?
bit, yeah.
Like the overwhelming evidence is it won't work out.
Quality punt, though, you've got to say.
Yeah.
Like, he should be too good for this level, but how
He
many
hasn't
players
been
do you see
playing much,
dominate?
has he?
No.
He's I mean, he hasn't. I don't know how many.
No,
games
he hasn't
started.
played. I think he's played a handful, 3 or 4 games for Lazio. He really hasn't played at all. I was actually looking at his career stats today. I don't think he's played 100 games in his career, which for a 23...
Well, according to Joel Lynch, who we had on last week, all the players have to complete a fitness test to be considered for selection, so he'll have to be in shape.
Apparently he is fit because he's been training with... I think it's Wigan. He's been training with whilst he's been back over here. And he's saying all the right things. I think he's on Twitter. I think there was an exchange with Trevor Sinclair, wasn't there, where he said, I think Trevor Sinclair said, if his head's right, this kid is good. And he replied to it saying, I'm 100% focused.
I mean, I'm presuming it's a loan.
Well, it looks like a loan,
Loan with
doesn't
an
it?
option by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
Low risk.
And what do we know about any of the other signings?
Chelsea have been linked with Pavel.
That was my favourite rumour of the day, I think. That's someone putting in names and clubs into a random rumour generator and assigning it to an Italian organisation you've never heard of.
But I also saw Chelsea are supposedly paying Celtic 40 million for Moussa Dembele.
Yeah.
The
But
second.
which one?
The second.
Right, okay. Yeah.
And
The one
they're
who played for
signing
Fulham?
Craig Gordon, and the only conclusion I can draw from that is they're involved in some elaborate money laundering exercise where they have to move a load of cash to Glasgow.
That's been their transfer policy, I think,
Yeah.
for several years, allegedly.
Yeah,
Until China come in with 50 million.
yeah. Not sure about that one. Someone tell me about Luke Freeman.
I asked my mate who supports Bristol City about him because I've not paid any attention to him really, and he said he was mustered in our promotion season from League One but has no pace.
He was what? Mustard.
Mustard.
Oh, as in hot, right.
Yeah,
Got you.
or, tasty.
English mustard or French mustard?
Somewhere in the middle, I think.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, that sounds to me like the sort of thing you might have said about Martin Rowlands 10 years ago, so I quite fancy that one to be at least semi-entertaining, possibly.
So he's signed a striker that don't score goals
Yeah.
and a winger with no pace.
Yeah,
It's going good.
Lovely. But at least they're English.
Yay.
What do you think of Lualua on Saturday?
Predictable. He kept sort of bringing it back onto his other foot, and I think he would have been quite an easy player to show in and play against if you're playing fullback. I mean, he looks like he's got a touch of quality about him. He didn't impress me hugely, though.
I still one other thing on Saturday was I thought every time Pavel gets the ball, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his surname. Oh, I will. Joek.
Was it Joek? Yeah.
He's starting to worry. He worries defenders when he's
Yeah,
got the ball at his feet, and he makes things happen. I thought, and I wondered if Holloway's trying to play with 2 wingers, and eventually he would quite like to see. Pavel. I guess 2 of Pavel, Lualua, and Luke Freeman, if he's a winger, play and play with two wingers where they get to the byline in that sort of old-fashioned way, get the ball in, and then hope that one of our strikers who can't score can score.
Where will Morrison fit into the team?
Free roll.
Free roll, yeah.
I don't think he's going to go straight in the team, is he? I'm convinced he is a punt. They are the guy. Obviously, likes QPR, has good memories of playing at QPR because he had a good spell. But I think they're looking at it. They have to be looking at it that it probably won't work out. But let's give it a go. Why not? They're not. Surely, someone tell me they're not pinning everything for the rest of the season on a guy who
I
hasn't.
don't think so. No.
Talking of people that haven't played for a while, Adele Taarabt,
Poor Adele.
2 assists, wasn't it?
2 assists. Yeah. So it looks like it's
He's
working
in the
out.
same.
For him.
He kind of fits into a similar category, doesn't he? The pair of them were we see them as kind of maverick figures with exceptional ability, but kind of it was up to them when they done it, really.
So has he gone there on loan?
I'm not even sure where he's gone, I must be honest.
Genoa.
Ooh, that's exciting.
You're supposed to say no, I don't. Where's he gone?
Not quick enough for
Yeah.
that, I'm afraid. It's been a long day. Transfer deadline
no,
day.
no.
takes
Well,
an hour.
Italian football will probably suit his work rate a little bit more.
Well, he done okay for Is it Milan he was at?
Yeah.
done
Yeah,
okay
he did
there.
well for Milan because he kind of rose to it because he felt he felt like he was at a big club.
Yeah.
At Benfica, he was never given the chance. The manager didn't tolerate his kind of work ethic and training, so he never had the opportunity to impress there.
It's amazing how we still talk about Adele, isn't it? Like,
I know.
he's been gone for it, you know.
It's
I mean,
amazing.
all right, he hasn't not been gone forever, but he hasn't played for us for a long time. But yet, still people talking about him every day, and it's weird.
Have you ever seen a better QPR season from any player
No,
than Adele Taarabt?
but that's why, exactly why.
Yeah, he was a wow player. Yeah, There's very few. of
He
them.
got us off our seats, and that's why. But I mean, he could infuriate occasionally. But
I've just got a text from my brother, which this could be my brother just chatting nonsense to me, but it also could be something which is Joek signs permanently.
I saw that.
That's the
I
rumour,
saw,
yeah.
I saw a 2-year deal. Yeah, but it was only a rumor. It was in Polish as well, and someone was translating.
Okay,
On Twitter.
so it
But
could be that, but based on what we've seen, that's if
that is good. Yeah,
that is good. If
Yeah.
that's the case, no.
Just saw a headline about Sammy Omiobi on QPR, but he's just focused on the game tomorrow. He's not going to QPR. Sorry, it's okay.
Who's that? Sorry.
Sammy Amiobi, Newcastle.
All right.
The inferior Amiobi.
Okay, so moving ahead to tomorrow, Newcastle away. What can we expect?
I think it's quite a good game for QPR. I know it's one where we're not expected to win. Newcastle haven't been great recently. They just lost to Oxford, but I think it
We
will
have to
suit
put
the
up a
way
better show than we did last time.
it will suit the way Holloway sets us up now. You know how we played against Reading, hoping for a similar kind of game, that kind of performance. I could see us nicking something.
Was that really a thing that we rested players ahead of the Newcastle game? Tell me that wasn't. Tell me that was like a combination of tactical and...
Yeah, weird.
Because
It didn't.
if then we end up getting nothing from Newcastle tomorrow, then it was a total backfire waste of time, no?
Mackie
know.
doesn't seem like a man that ever needs a rest,
No.
does he?
Only to protect maybe a hamstring or something.
Sure.
But I get what you mean. I'm sure he probably didn't want to rest either.
I do love Holloway. The only big question mark I have about him are his decisions during match.
Idea.
During matches, substitutions.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I love him.
I think he brings players on too late. I do think that. I mean, he brought Mackie on for the last 5 minutes, and the point of playing Mackie, I would play the guy every game simply because he lifts and pushes and makes everyone work harder.
Well, it
And
goes
so-
back to what Tom said about
Exactly.
him chasing down a goalkeeper.
But it's his aura. It's
yeah.
not even necessarily what he does with the ball at his feet. He lifts everyone. And Mackie's position in the team has changed. If you think back to, those days, when was the Liverpool 3-2, 2012, whatever it was. Yes, Mackie was an important player. But now he's almost, regardless of age, he's almost like, first of all, almost like the senior pro in the team, who they all look up to. And second of all, he's the QPR man in the team. He's the one that gets the club. He's the one that gets what the fans want. So when he is on the pitch, the other players raise their game because they look at him and they see that the standard he needs to get to. So when you are losing, I think bringing on Mackie at 85 minutes is way too late. You want to bring him on 70 minutes, latest, so that he gets everyone going. I'd play the guy every game.
In your head, you're thinking of that Liverpool game, aren't you?
Yes, very much
It's
so.
weird though because that start of that season with Warnock, he was our main striker and he was on fire.
Yeah, scored 7 games in a row or something.
Yeah, and got two. I mean, he was the number 9, as it were. He was the big man up front. He was powerful and he was great. And then Warnock brought Helson in and put him wide. I think it was to help out Bradley Orr and Carl Walker, and he was great. But he hasn't really been moved back by anyone since Reading, Forest, us.
No.
He's still played wide. I was wondering if that front might be. We're going to play with 2 wingers. I don't know. I'm just looking.
Tom, how do we beat Newcastle?
Bribery. No, I don't much fancy us tomorrow evening. I must be honest.
Either.
I think there's a sort of there's a potential game plan where you do a bit of a kind of rope-a-dope on them. Southampton did it fantastically against Liverpool last week. Don't think we have the same defence as Southampton. Unfortunately, the real concern about the Burton game for me was just how lax we looked at the back at times. There was that particular moment when Longo headed it back in quite an ill-advised position, but there was Anua and Smithies covering it, and then Anua kind of dawdled on it and had to blast it out. We just don't look like a composed or imposing unit at the back, and I fear for them slightly against what Newcastle have got going forward.
Have I missed how bad Hall's Achilles injury is? Did they mentioned it?
I haven't seen it mentioned apart from in the post-match saying that him and Silla had picked up knocks, but I don't know level
So it's
of
not too
said
bad.
knock. Anyone?
No,
Because if Hall's injuries, if his Achilles injury is quite bad, then I'm surprised that Corker would maybe be on loan. I know he's injured at the moment.
So it looks like he's going to Russia, doesn't it?
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Our priorities in the transfer market are very much up front and midfield, aren't they?
So, as we speak, and we'll move on to the Ozem, but as we speak, with 3 hours left of the transfer window, QPR priorities for the next 3 hours.
Stop buying players. I'm so tired of all these new players. It's really hard to feel affection and familiarity when the cast just changes like by 50% every single window. Just, put a transfer ban on yourself for 2 years or something and let's give it a go with what we've got.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that the players are bought in for the sake of it,
Yeah.
as a fresh face, as a bit of a kick up the backside for maybe a few, not necessarily to massively improve the team, and that's that's been going on for ages with us.
Yeah. I do think we have a bit of a goal scoring problem, but
Without a
I
doubt.
agree with you. Like, we've got so many midfielders. Why do we need to get rid of 3 of them and replace them with 3 other midfielders? We've got loads of professional footballers that earn very good money being professional footballers.
And you've still got Cole Henry as well. Has he actually
Yes,
got
yeah.
that's slipped
But,
under the radar, hasn't it?
Okay.
Buying a proven goal scorer in January, though, is virtually impossible
Yeah,
unless
that's
you
true.
just
Does
mega
it
mint.
ever work for anyone? Like, who
Austin started really well at
Suarez?
Southampton.
Don't talk to me about Austin, because
Cisse, did we get
with
him in
6 months left on his contract, a year ago, we got how much for Charlie Austin?
4 million.
With 6 months left on his contract, how much did West Brom get for Saido Berahino? 12 million.
But everyone is 10
Charlie
million
Austin is
now.
an infinitely better player than Saido Berahino all day, every day. How did they get 3 times more than what QPR
I think that's
got
just
for Charlie
happened to
Austin?
transfers in honestly in the last
'Cause
year. Like
this new
players
deal.
I've not heard of have gone for 10 million in this window. Like 10 million is
10
like
million is
the
the new
free.
500 grand.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Wolves
Yeah.
have just signed a winger permanently, Helder Costa, for 13 million. Championship.
Yeah,
Wade,
and Burnley paid 10 million for a Hull left back today.
Who apparently
Sorry.
is good.
Okay, but he's a left back from Hull,
Right, yeah.
and they've paid 10 million for him. Okay, Arles End with a Hull left back.
Not half a left back, a whole left back.
To Burnley, which my emphasis on Burnley is it's not like one of the big fours come in for this guy and they've had to pay over the odds. It's a new team to the Premier League and has just written a cheque for 10 million.
I'm waiting for Burnley to come in, sign Cole Henry. Must be
Yeah.
worth at least 8 million.
Just as an aside, what a terrible, like Lincoln, that draw in the FA Cup, they could not have got a worse team than
Hard
Burnley
place to
away.
go.
No. Well,
Burnley are granite.
Blackburn
at Turf
got-
Moor, aren't they? They're not going to get through them. It will be a not entertaining game, and they'll lose. Anyway, sorry.
I was going to say Blackburn knocked us out of the cup, didn't they? They've got Man United.
Yeah.
And they'll be on TV, of course.
Of course.
Yes. Right, ours end of the show. Anything you haven't mentioned, would like to mention, would like to get off your chest, I will do a very simple announcement. Simon Matthews has emailed us. His son Jack is 18 tomorrow on the 1st of February. And how do you think Jack is celebrating his 18th birthday?
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Don't do
trip
it.
up the A1.
Don't do it, Jack.
He's going up the A1.
Trip up the A1 and trip up them stairs at St James's Park.
Yes,
God,
yes, he's getting a nosebleed in the away end at St James's Park. Listen, if there's anybody from QPR listening, well, you know the club listen to it on a what's usually a Tuesday morning, it'll be a Wednesday morning. Do it for Jack tomorrow. He's gone all the way up to Newcastle. It's his 18th birthday. He only gets one 18th birthday. So do it for Jack Matthews. Happy birthday, Jack. Right. Next.
I don't really have a ours end. I just want to. We're playing Newcastle tomorrow night, so it brings back terrible memories. That probably the lowest point of this season, watching us just absolutely get annihilated at Loftus Road. So if there are any players listening, then please, you've got to make it up to us tomorrow.
Gentlemen.
Two really quick things. One related to what Chris just said about Blackburn knocking us out of the cup. I don't know if you saw that fact that was going around yesterday. That it's funny, but also very depressing that Sutton have won more FA Cup games this season than we have in 20 years. And that is a fact. And that is a fact. Wow.
And that's not even a Donald Trump alternative
No.
fact. That's an actual fact.
Yeah, which is like, wow, what? Which makes you think, really. Anyway.
Wow.
I laughed, but also cried inside. But also, very quickly, one thing a lot of the fans don't know is that this season, for the first season, there is a QPR College Academy up and running in Latimer Road, and my son's in it, goalkeeper. But it's not many fans know, and it's good. I think it goes under the radar a little bit that the club are starting to kind of sieve out some of the local talent, some of the local players.
Is that the Westway?
Yep. It's the first year they've done it, so that it's kind of, I think they're kind of learning on the hop a little bit as it's going. But
What age group are they?
I think they're 17, 16, 17. So I know it's kind of late stages, but they're still trying to, the ones that have gone through the net, ones, and they're playing other clubs. They've been away to Burnley, I think, and away to all sorts of various teams, and they play Watford and so it's good. It's good for, it goes under the radar a little bit. I've been on this podcast before where we moan about Rangers not looking locally, and so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, the club do good community work, and we've always been very kind of supportive of that and giving credit there. They just don't do good recruiting managers and keeping faith with them work necessarily. Yeah. But that's always good to hear. Tom, you have the last word.
Thank you. I wanted to spread some journalism love to a couple of people. I think we're very lucky to have such good journalists taking unusual time and effort to cover QPR, specifically Clive Whittingham, who just writes several thousand words every week in a real kind of labour of love, with a kind of attention and a depth that no outlet could realistically provide, and other clubs would kill to have someone as dedicated as that, who knows as much and can offer that much analysis. And David McIntyre as well, who's a fantastic reporter, and yet still gets pelters constantly from people on Twitter who think he's got some sort of bizarre agenda against the club. And if we've learnt nothing else from supporting QPR, it's that QPR are quite capable of sabotaging themselves. They don't need David McIntyre to do it for them. So it's just sort of very disappointing to see when either of those two specifically get slated, because I think that it's a pretty thankless task dedicating your career to covering QPR, and a lot of clubs don't have that sort of coverage. So I think before you abuse them on Twitter, just take a second and think about your actions, especially if your icon is still an egg.
Totally agree. Couldn't agree more. I think we're a championship club, but I think we have whatever we call them, writers, bloggers, journalists. Those guys are, if it's not too cheesy to say, Champions League level. I agree with you totally. I think both of them are brilliant and top quality writers. Okay. final predictions for Newcastle, which by the time 80% of our listeners listen to this will be out of date, so will be a good laugh. I'll go with my usual, what I say to cover ourselves when I'm not sure it will go our way, which is 1-1. 1-1.
I think there'll be more goals than that. I'm going to go for 2-2.
Martin.
Do you want me to be honest, or do you want me to go?
You say what you feel. Paul at this point would say, "I'm going to get hammered for this on Twitter," so you can preface it with that.
Well, yeah, Paul always says we
Yeah.
I think we'll get beat tomorrow night. I don't think it'll be the absolute humiliation like it was at Loftus Road, because I think we're actually a harder team to beat. Actually,
that's good.
But I do think that they might have a little bit too much for us tomorrow. 2-0, I think. Sorry to be depressing, but I'm just being honest.
Tom?
I think we might score, but I think we'll lose 3-1.
Well, that's all cheery, isn't it? Okay, thank you very much for listening. With a bit of luck, we should be back normal day next week, which is Monday night. This has been Open All Ours. Thank you very much.
QPR, Chris Mendes.